Thank you. Let me thank NXT for this privilege to address you this afternoon. I know we have limited time. Let me get directly to business vis-a-vis South Africa and India. Well, this year is a special year for India-Africa relations because at the end of May, I think you will see all the African leaders assembled here in New Delhi, in this very venue, for the 4th edition of the India-Africa Forum Summit. Now, India-Africa trade is quite vibrant. It's still in its infancy, and I believe there is great scope to deepen this trade. Total trade between India and Africa is in the region of just over $100 billion. South Africa-India trade accounts for about 20% of that. Two-way trade between India and South Africa is in the region of about $20 billion. But as I've indicated, this is still the tip of the iceberg. Africa is the fastest growing region outside of Asia, and it is the last frontier of growth. And if you are not present in Africa today, you are missing a great opportunity. According to the IMF World Bank data released last week, in terms of economies of the world, those that are growing at 6% and above, the majority are from the African continent. Now, South Africa is, of course, a destination of choice for a number of reasons. Because we have the most advanced infrastructure on the African continent, we are the largest economy on the African continent, and the most industrialized nation on the African continent. You have about 160 Indian companies housed in South Africa. All of your major multinationals from India have a base in South Africa, and it is not only catering to the South African market, but they use it as a springboard into sub-Saharan Africa. Just within our region, the Southern African region, you have a market of over 300 million. Africa today is a continent of 1.5 billion people. It has the youngest demography in the world. The average demography of South Africa is 19 years old. So you have a ready labor force, well-educated labor force, and you have, as I've said, the infrastructure to establish your offices. To give you some very recent examples, I've just been here in India for a year and a half almost, but I've seen the vibrancy of the economic interchange between our two countries, both on the trade side and on the investment side. Vedanta Resources have major investments in South Africa over the past 6 or 7 years. They've invested over $15 billion in mines in the Northern Cape, including a smelter plant for aluminium, for zinc, silver, and copper. We have seen recently Varun Beverages have entered the South African market. Varun Beverages is present in about 16 African countries. They have major investments now in South Africa. Over the past 2 years, they've invested over 4 billion rands and today operate over 5 factories in South Africa. Mahindra is been in the South African environment for about 20 years. They announced expansion of the plant in South Africa in October last year to the value of an additional 1 billion rands. And Mahindra is now looking at setting up a manufacturing plant in South Africa. One of their 4x4 vehicles was voted the most popular vehicle in South Africa. So Indian products are highly regarded in South Africa. Tata launched 4 new models of their vehicles in South Africa in October last year. We're likewise seeing a number of South African companies entering the Indian market. We have about 30 major South African companies in the Indian market, especially in the financial and insurance space and the ICT space. Process, which is a major South African company, has invested over $7 billion in the Indian market. Sanlam, one of our major insurance giants, which thus far held about 16% share in Shriram Financials, they have increased that to 36% in October last year, investing an additional 5 billion rands into the Indian market. Santam, another major insurance company of South Africa, just last week was given license to open up an office in India. De Beers, our mining house, the diamond mining house, has offices and have been present in India for a number of years and doing very well. So we have identified about 5 or 6 key areas for mutual growth. These include infrastructure and the mining sector. South Africa is a mining country with vast experience. Green energy is another area where we believe we can cooperate closely for mutual benefit. The pharmaceutical and medical equipment sector is another important sector. Agriculture and agro-processing is another sector where we believe we can cooperate. Of course, naturally, the ICT digital space is another area where we believe both South African and Indian companies can cooperate for mutual benefit, not only in dealing with trade bilaterally, but also on the African continent. Last year, our Minister of Trade was here and met with Minister Goyal in August last year, and we have agreed to start negotiations on a free trade agreement, the first between the African continent and India. The Southern African Customs Union, which comprises 5 countries that makes up the oldest custom union in the world, founded in 1910, South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia, and Eswatini. So we have started work on an FTA between India and SACU, and I believe this also has great promise, and we hope that we can expedite this process and have an FTA in place. Now, given what is happening in the economic space, where trade has been weaponized in recent time, it is important for us as countries of the Global South, as BRICS countries, to deepen trade and investment interaction between ourselves. South Africa has major pull factors in terms of attracting Indian businesses, and likewise, we'd like to see more South African businesses, not just the major business houses, but the MSME sector. We have a delegation coming to India later this year to see how we can increase our trade interaction, especially amongst the MSME sector. So I believe that trade between India and South Africa and India and the African continent is still in its infancy. $100 billion is a small amount compared to the vast potential both our markets hold. If you compare that, India and the African continent combinedly accounts for almost 1.3 billion people of the global community. This is a vast market. It's a vast opportunity. But very often we take it for granted. Yes, India and South Africa have a shared history of struggle, a very long history of a vibrant Indian community that goes back almost 200 years, of Gandhi's stay in South Africa. We think we know each other, but in effect, we don't know much about each other. I believe we need to intensify the interaction between our people, between our private sector, to explore the vast opportunities for mutual benefit between ourselves. I'm quite optimistic that trade between India and South Africa can be doubled over the next 10 years, if not more. And trade between the African continent and India can more than double over the next 10 years if we give it the necessary attention and we take advantage of the vast opportunities that lie before us. Thank you so much for having me.